Welcome to Miss Blaine's art classroom. This is going to be the first of a few videos I will be posting on building facial features. These are the practices I go over in class. There was a high demand of people asking for further practice with this, or just having one version in case you needed to reference again while working on a portrait. So here we go. I'm going to jump right into it. Let's start with the nose. That is the most asked about facial feature I get in class. I'm going to show you two very basic structures of setting up a nose. And then you can really take those structures and refine them and manipulate them to get whatever size, shape, nose you need to use. So one is one I show in class, and then the second's another one I've used before. So let's get to it. Okay, the first one is using that 3-circle theory, if you will. And as we lay out these shapes that are going to turn into the structure, start off very light, right? Because we're going to erase some of these lines eventually or shade over them, and we don't want to make it too dark too fast. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with a circle. Fairly good size. We're going to say a dime size for the size of paper I'm working on right now. And then we're going to build two smaller circles on either side. And they're going to overlap this circle. You want them to overlap. Okay, I went a little dark on that first circle, but I really want you all to be able to see. So I'm going to go darker than I would normally, but you all start off pretty light. Okay, so what we have just established is the tip of our nose and the two folds that surround our nasal cavity. These will be eventually the nostrils. So I want to start thinking about what we're building here. Next up is we want to attach this to our bridge. And I cannot overstate this enough when working on any facial features. Feel your own face, as silly as it may sound, or it may be for you. It's so important to feel what that 3D shape feels like, and then you're trying to mimic it when you draw it. So if even on the Zoom calls or in class, you all see I'm always touching my face, which I know is a big no-no right now with pandemic. So please wash your hands before you start touching your face. But if you've washed your hands and said your birthday song twice, you're okay to touch your face. Little health PSA there. All right, let's continue on. So if you have felt your nose, you know that that bridge is round. It's very round. It's the most 3D part of our face, part that's sticking out from our face. So when we go to draw the structure, you want to really give yourself guidelines for what that shading is going to look like. So instead of just drawing a straight line, you want to just curve that line slightly. And again, this is just going to be structure for down the road when we shade it. So this is our structure. This is the basic shapes. We have sort of abstracted a nose down. Now we're going to come back in, darken some of these outline, refine lines, and then start building our shading. So let's start off with those nostrils. Lots of people tend to just draw little circles, but again, don't pick your nose. But you can kind of tell it's more of that like almost like a teardrop shape. So where our nostril is actually going to come up here is this connection point where these two overlap, and you're actually inverting those lines. And then you just want to connect that with the tip of your nose there and refining. We're just sort of taking the lines that are already there and we're just darkening them to give us a little bit of the more accurate structure. So same thing, connecting the edges to the bridge. We're going to invert this line to connect because, again, think of the scoop that happens. It's fairly severe. So we're just going to take this line, invert it, and round it out a little bit. So already we can see a bit more structure to what the nose would look like. I'm going to come in now. The next step is to start shading. So using this structure, you can widen it, you can narrow it, you can do anything you need to get the very specific nose you're drawing. But this is everybody's structure from a straight point view. I'll show you a side view here in a moment. Okay, shading. So obviously where skin is folding, is happening, bone is moving, or cartilage in this case, those are going to cause shadows and highlights, and that's where you need to add things. Let's start with the tip. The tip is always going to be the brightest part or the lightest part of your shading because, again, it's the most 3D part. It's the part that's sticking out the most from your face. And if you feel it, and you know, the reason why like clowns have perfect circle red noses they put on is because that tip is so round. It's a round bit of cartilage. So that circle that we have here really establishes it. So you could even do the shading you would do for a sphere where you have your edges and then you built in until pretending like your light source is coming directly in front of it. And again, just start refining. So I'm also going to connect a little bit of shading and notice how light we're starting, because remember, you can always add. It's much harder to subtract. And again, contour, contour, one of my favorite words because it's so important. So since we're shading the tip of the nose, my lines around where that tip is. As I build onto the bridge, I'm going to round those lines, going to contour that out. It's going to just 100% help you emphasize your shape. All right, as I connect this to these outer edges, again, that's where that cartilage meets the skin. So it's going to be, you know, a little bit more round here. So again, I'm not doing back and forth. I'm not scribbling. I'm contouring. I'm following those lines I already created, and I'm building this bridge to all the shapes I already made. Talking about the inside of the nostrils, again, think of what's actually happening. It's skin folding, so it's not just solid black as many people draw. It's going to be pretty dark inside where the tightest fold is, but then it's going to gracefully gradate that color out. And depending on how much light there is, you know, you'll have a bit more dark, etc. And then as we come into shade the bridge, again, it's round, it's an arch, it's like a rainbow. So when you're shading that, the tip or the center here is going to be very light because, again, it's very 3D coming off of your face. So you want to have that arch meeting there. But again, it just helps so much with your shading if you are contouring. So I'm kind of creating a rainbow stroke. And again, at the sides here, it's going to be darker because that's where your bridge is melting down and connecting with your cheekbones. And you can build from there. And you just come in and keep reworking. Now that we have a little bit more structure, we can start coming in with our eraser now and eliminating some of those harder lines we had from the initial structure drawing. Again, you want to use your eraser as much as you use your pencil. It's nice when you have, I love these erasers that come with the Black Wings because they're very versatile. But come in with your pink pearl or whatever eraser you're using, and it can be your best friend. You know, you're gonna instead of, you've noticed I've never taken my finger and started rubbing at the graphite. That's such a big no-no. If you absolutely must do that, use a tissue, use a little corner of a paper towel, or again, use your eraser. Your eraser can blend really well too if you just know how to control it. So that is a very quick basic structure. I could sit here and rework this forever. I would really soften up a lot of that darkness. And I will, at the end of this video, actually add in some really of noses I've done that I've been able to refine, and you can see as an example. The second one, I won't shade because I want to keep this video short. I'll just show you another structure that you can use in your approach to drawing a nose. Once again, it starts off with that tip of your nose, which is a circle. Okay. This time, we're going to kind of keep this idea of the bridge. We're going to start with it though. So again, now this one's a little bit higher, thinking about how it connects to your eyebrow, your eye socket line. But again, you sort of want to create that bowed line, and then you can adjust as you need to. Okay, next up, go ahead and draw a horizontal line directly through that circle you just did for the tip of the nose. Okay, and then next up, you're gonna draw two vertical on either side. So this becomes the outside of our nose. All right. So now we're going to do all these connecting parts. So right here, I'm going to connect again with sort of that scoop line. Okay. And then I'm going to actually start connecting what would be the nostril line up through here. And again, there's just sort of these inverted, scooped, rounded lines. And so that is the structure. And so now we can come in and refine it a bit more, connect this up here. This is like a little thinner. I don't typically use this one because it always ends up this part being a little thinner, but sometimes this works. And I know it's taught by a lot of people as another example. Okay, so you can kind of establish like where the end would be in lip line, and then you'll just create that. And then the shading is basically the same. So there's two very basic ways to start with a structure, and then I will flip right here at this point to show you a couple. And for the profile, which that's the side view, I wanted to show you a real quick way to do that. So again, using those circles, start off with a larger one for the tip. And this time you're only going to do one other circle, a small one that will intersect right there. And now we're doing this sort of side view. So real quick, let's establish that nostril. And again, that's sort of curving these two lines together. So right where they intersect, I'm just adding that little sort of rainbow arch that's connecting those two. And I'm just gonna go ahead and darken. Most people don't have this round of a tip of a nose, but some people do. You can kind of see because I was practicing. You could just, depending on how narrow the nose is or whatever you, just bring this part up. But again, this is gonna come down, and then you might even skim this a little bit. Just depends on the size of the nose or the profile. Sometimes people have bumps. I have a bump in my nose, or maybe a breakage, an old breakage, and it's not crazy big, but you know, that almost looks like a witch's wart. But you can refine from there. Shading is still the same. You're gonna have a light area here on the tip. Around here, it's gonna become dark. Again, I cannot stress to you how important it is to do the contouring when shading a nose, side view, front view, however, and just curve and arch those lines. Again, it's gonna be pretty dark underneath, and then it's gonna get lighter and peek out a little bit. And then you can come in and you don't really need those lines anymore. And then that's just a side view. And again, I will show you some finished side views that are a bit more refined. But that's the basic structure for profile.